Welcome back to Martial Quest. In this video I want to give you 7 tips to determine whether or not you are training in a sport or whether you are training in a combative art. The fact of the matter is, most traditional martial arts today started combative and were civilized and brought down to sport. So I want to give you 7 tips to determine whether you're training a combat-oriented art or a sport-oriented art. Now I have to say, if you want to play sports, there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of great sports out there. And there's a lot of martial sports that can be beneficial and fun. So I'm not saying that you should not be playing sports. I'm just saying don't confuse the two. Number 1, if it calls itself a sport, it is a sport. Now this might seem obvious, but we must say it. If you can play it in the Olympics, if you can get a trophy, it's a sport. That's not to say it doesn't have defense applications. It may have. But if it calls itself a sport, it is a sport. Number 2, must it be trained only in a special environment? Must it be trained only within a ring, for example? Are there limitations of distance? Must there always be pads on the floor? Is it never trained in a real-world setting? If so, you're probably training a sport. Number 3, rules. Are there weight classes? Are there forbidden zones? Are there techniques that you cannot do? If so, you are not training a combative art. Number 4, do you have to take off your shoes? And I know that sounds very silly, but no standing army in the history of the world has ever had to take off its shoes to engage in combat. And people say, well, if you leave your shoes on, you might get hurt. Yeah, generally speaking, in combat, that's the idea that somebody will get hurt. But it also goes back to that idea of real-world training. If you have to take your shoes off, you're probably playing a sport. Number 5, and this one is very important and often neglected. Does this art take in consideration all the ranges of combat? And I'm speaking of unarmed combat here. There are a lot of sports which are fantastic sports that do not allow or do not consider for all the ranges of combat. I'll give an example. Boxing. Boxing is an amazing, phenomenal sport. However, boxing takes place in one range, punching range only. And I'm going to make a lot of videos in the future talking about the importance of understanding ranges and moving in and out of those ranges. Number 6, children. I'm not saying children should not take martial arts. That's not at all what I'm saying. I think it would be great that all children who are able and desire to should take martial arts. They should learn self-defense techniques. But it mortifies me to no end when I see someone promoting a self-defense program for children and they have a 20-pound kid performing a rear naked choke on a 6-foot-tall, 200-pound man. That is dangerous and irresponsible. Number 7, does the art you're training take in consideration lethal techniques? Is this an art where you could lose your life, where you have to protect your life or the life of the others, and to do so you are training the ability on how to take a human life?